All right, guys. So let's talk about some of the things I want you to work through in here, and how you build this, and the idea that what you do in the negative space is really super important. So I don't want you to just throw something in there um, and leave it and say it's done. We've been talking about visual crispness and clarity, or else let me start. I'm introducing that in our conversations, visual crispness and clarity, and we've talking about edges being really tight, and up in here you can see that the edges in here are fuzzy, right? And so that's a way to be. It's totally legitimate, but if you want heightened visual crispness and clarity, then maybe you need to go in there and sharpen up that edge by really working it and trying to get it as tight as possible, as sharp as possible with the Conte crayon, right? So I go in there and I do that, and I can bring it down in here. Now, I know some of you guys are wondering, the tape, Chuck, what's the tape with? Well, I'm talking about edges, right? And sharp edges. So I wanted to keep this edge, when I drop this value in here, I wanted to keep this edge as sharp as possible. So I thought, I'm going to tape it out. So this was built up, and I'll send you slides of each one of these. This guy's not done. This guy I think I'm happy with. This guy I want to mess with, but I'm not sure. This guy is totally getting messed with, right? So back to this one. So I knew I wanted, when I started putting in that graphite, I started messing around with building up light to dark and a soft texture to a rougher texture. I thought, okay, let's do a gradient, dark up here, down into here, and we'll have some kind of transition in here. So this is kind of a rough transition. You could probably work that more by taking your eraser and going in here and like get some erase marks in there and bring them up, and less marks, so that it feels like it's not such a steep transition. It's kind of a more, it's not like step, like one thing and boom another. It's like, a gradient. That's the word I'm hunting for. A gradient from the graphite heavy marks into the erase marks. So obviously, depending upon what I wanted to do, this is one solution in here, right? I could have brought this up in here. I could have went like, okay, let's do this. Let's give it a U shape, right? So I erase up in here, erase up in there, and erase a little bit there. Then it's like a U shape hanging behind it. But you get the idea. You can mess with it, right? Up in here is the graphite. We've been talking about the edges. And this one is the charcoal. So the idea here was I'm going to do a pattern. I was thinking about a pattern, and as soon as I can find the right thing, I want to trace around, because I want to make it easy for myself. Though obviously I know I can go with a hand-drawn something else in there to create a pattern in there, or I can trace around something, which is fine. I also use the ruler. I didn't measure out. I didn't care about it being consistent. I wanted it to be a little consistent. Oh, you also can go back in and erase edges to make them sharper, okay? So I tape that out. When I talk a little bit more about this one up in here, then we'll pull this tape off and see what happens. So I think I have an idea what I want to use as a shape to draw around. And I'm going to go with a lid. And I think, nope, too big. So I'm going to go with this guy. That's better. And I started with a 2B charcoal pencil. And I know it's soft and I can smudge it. So what I'm actually thinking about doing is drawing in semicircles or circles in there, maybe doing an idea of a gradient, a lot of them up in here, down into a softer in here, maybe along in here to accentuate that shape right down the center. So I put it there, boom, 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 and do the tracing, right? Boom, 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 up in there. And then, since I know the charcoal is smudgeable, I might go in there and smudge it and see what happens, right? So that's setting up road markers and setting up like goals to go after, right? You heard me talk about the goal in here, and it happened as the drawing was happening. Heard me talk about the goal up in here, and it happened. It's just a rough idea, and then it becomes more clear as I'm working on it. Right? I did not go like when I got this one done. When I got all these done, I went there and there. When I thought about this guy while the video was uploading, I thought, let's go in with this stripes, okay? And then I thought, but it all started with, The charcoal pencil is easily smudgeable. And then I went like, let's go with stripes first. Pinstripes. And maybe we smudge that. And then as I was drawing it across, I thought, no, let's do more patterns in here. We got a texture. Let's go more of a pattern. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to end this now, right? The last video will be these completed. We'll talk, and then I will get a little bit into setting up just a house plant against a black field, and you doing the big one. If you want to work from that house plant for all four, that's cool too. If you want to do the house plant in all four and then the big one, that's cool. Just give yourself different compositions. Look at different areas up in there, okay? And remember, you're trying to go hit these shapes. So traditionally, you try not to erase, but I had to erase tons in here because after I got that in and that in, I realized my relationships were off. I looked at it and I wanted to really get closer. So I erased and redrew and decided to leave that as the first because that's the first one I did. And I see my mistakes. And then that gives me an idea of going like, you know what? Maybe you should go somewhere simpler, because this might have been too much to bit off in the beginning. Okay, so it's kind of like learning how to play an instrument or do something. You start out with a basic idea about it, and then as you become more competent in doing it, understanding what you need to do, then you allow things to get more complex. Okay, so let me get this guy up, and then I'm going to work on this guy. Maybe I'll work on that guy, and then the last video for the negative space will be the house plant and me talking about what to do, and we'll get a large one going with that. Okay, see you soon, guys.